Following the apology to the stolen generations in 2008, a few people from the Gap came together to have a conversation about reconciliation. Out of that conversation grew Balaangala Community Group, a small, informal organisation that brings Indigenous and non-Indigenous people together to share and learn with and from one another. We give value and respect to the position of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the Indigenous people of Australia. A central theme of the group is to encourage personal reflection about our shared past and the role we can all play in the process of reconciliation. Group members connect with the local community by organising a range of formal and informal events and educational activities. We care for country through an ongoing commitment to the development and maintenance of the garden space, which provides a place for us to learn, share, connect, commemorate and celebrate. Members each bring their own backgrounds, skills and interests, and so engage with the group in different ways and for different reasons.
My name's Nerdin Seriko and I'm a Gubby elder, and I've lived in the Gap for 54 years now. The reason I like coming up here, there's such a marvellous bunch of people up here. Even the little ones, just so turned on and so helpful, and they all think environment.
I've really enjoyed my time here in the Balaangala Garden. The idea of reconciliation has been very important to me over many years, and one of my hobbies has been planting native trees. So those two things coming together has been a great experience. It's been really great to go work in the garden with other people. Gardening is one of those things where you can do stuff with people, and it's sort of a way of getting to know them, tell stories to each other and slowly sort of understand one another better. So it's a great base for getting to know people, reconciliation, and it's really nice to be able to see a place develop over time and feel that sort of connection to a place here and the surrounds.
I have a connection to this area since I was a child. I used to ride my horse around here at the Pony Club grounds down here and go swimming. So I hung around here most of my childhood. And with Balaangala, it is really nice to be in this group because I feel like I'm helping rejuvenate the area to the traditional way it was.
Being part of the group has helped me learn a lot about our shared history and about Indigenous culture, and that's given me confidence to have conversations with people and challenge some of the myths and stereotypes that sometimes come up.
Being part of this group and being in this space for me has been about having an actual physical place to remind us that we are on Aboriginal land. I think it's something we can easily forget, but I suppose it's about having an opportunity to have conversations about what we can learn together from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So, coming together as a way of hearing those stories. So having a space where we can hear the stories and just learn so much knowledge about our environment that we share and the histories. And it's an opportunity for us all to share those things, all of our skills and all of our stories and histories, and come up with new ways of doing things.
What I know about the Brisbane area in general for the boundaries and its the entire Brisbane River is that the Turrbal and Yuggabal speaking people are the ones that are the custodians of this area.
Yeah, the greatest impact on the when civilisation came in was to divide the people up. They just didn't know from whence they came, and they were restricted. The restrictions were so severe on them that they weren't allowed in their own country. So they were strangers in their own country, which is a terrible thing. Well, you might say the worst thing that they brought in all the disease, which our people had no resistance to, and that wiped many off. Didn't have to shoot them; they just died from measles and mumps and what have you.
Common cold would wipe a lot of people.
Oh yeah, common cold was deadly. It's a very strong virus, a very common cold, and just there was no resistance to the jolly thing. And of course there were all other diseases that came in progressed, it got worse, and we're still paying the penalty for all these introduced diseases. That was probably the greatest impact on the whole of Australia, wouldn't you say, Dan?
Oh, yeah. I found the biggest turn-off for me about settlement is the animals they brought in. People would have been drinking and swimming in nice water holes and rivers and things like that. And then along comes the cattle and their animals, and they're messing and peeing and drinking the same water that they're standing in, and our animals don't do that. They go to the water holes to drink.
And the other thing about the introduction of the animals, all the animals that were introduced were cloven-footed. So they wrecked the country. All the animals, native animals before that, were all soft-footed. So they never did any damage to the country. But since you've got the pigs, the goats and every other jolly thing, they just uprooted the ground and tore it apart. What people didn't realise when they first arrived in Australia was that Aboriginal communities were very, very structured communities. Everybody had specific jobs to do. That was given to you at the Dern or Bora Ring. There were fishermen. You were allocated as a fisherman, allocated as a fire maker, and such like. And you had these specific jobs given to you, and you stuck strictly to those. And fishermen had allocated areas where nobody else could fish.
You get this thing saying that we're nomadic, but we're nomadic within our own little country. And within that area, we know where the plants and the flora and fauna is growing at the best times and the right times and places to eat it. So we let the land farm for us. So this is scrambling lily, this one here, and I call it the pea vine, man. And they so you eat the top part of it, the little stems. They're very soft, and you chew on these things, and good job, good feeding, just like that. And they taste like beans. And it's called scrambling lily because it scrambles. Look at it, it's a great mess. And the medium berry is a well sought after berry, little white fruit that's on these small shrub, and well sought after. A lot of people will travel, and if they ever saw them, they just jump on them as quick as they can. So right now I'm standing at a grass tree, it's Xanthoria, and this one here is usually when it's flowering. This one looks like he's definitely on its way out, but when they flower you can even get the flowers when they're fresh and dip them in your water, and you'll get the nectar out of those flowers and have a really good drink out of that. And the resin's a really good glue as well, and the stick itself definitely used for making, used when I used the fire sticks as well. So it's got its uses. It's not a bad tree, that one. This is the Lamandra bush, and this one here is actually one of my favourite plants, and a very, very well used one as well, because it uses every part of it. You can even use the seeds, the flowers, which are well protected, and you have to ask this plant for permission as well if you want to take anything from it. And you just pick the right one, you ask the plant for permission if you want to use it, and it will give it to you quite easily. You don't have to pull too hard. And if you get one that without asking permission, or one that it wants to keep, it gets hard. See? So you don't do that one. This one we use a lot for weaving as well. I can make shoes, clothes, baskets, all types of stuff out of this one. Strip it down, and the bottom ends of it got a bit of a taste to it. This is a good plant. So I'm with the pandanus one here, the tugul, and this is a very important plant for weaving. Very strong baskets. Yep, fruit baskets, carrying baskets and things like that. Another plant you have to be careful with, as you can tell. It's got spikes all up and down one side of it, and down the centre as well, underneath it. And they all run obviously in a downward pattern. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this. If I did it the other way, I would have a sooky face, and I don't have that right now. Here at the sandpaper fig, and sandpaper fig because the leaves are very rough. And if I pull one off, whoops, I pulled one off, and you can feel the roughness on it. And that's what I'm doing right now is I'm getting my nail, and my nail's a little bit rough, so I need to give it a sand. And it's making a little noise, you can hear it. And you look at my nail, now it's looking a little bit white and shiny. Look at that, see? So it actually works. Anyway, so sandpaper fig was really good with our artifacts for smoothing off and making sure we didn't get ourselves splinters at the end of it, as well as the fruits on it when they're fully ripe. You can eat them straight. They're not too bad to eat. The sap on it's a good way to put it over a sore, like a band-aid. This is blue tongue. Look at the leaves on it. See that? That's very, very distinctive of this plant. You can see all these lines in this leaf, and that's how you know which one it is. Another one is that there's a few around, and they have a little purple flower on this one when it flowers. When the flower has already flowered and then it finishes, drops off, and the bud itself underneath produce a ripe fruit with the seeds on the outside. It's sweet when it's been well watered, no good when it's dry, and it looks a little bit like a strawberry because the seeds are on the outside, but once you eat the fruit, it changes the colour of your tongue. Some people say you call it blue tongue, that's where it gets its name from.
I've been coming to Balaangala for about 3 to 4 years. I have a really abiding, probably almost passionate interest in native food. That's what drew me to Balaangala. Having come here though, the reconciliation side became apparent to me. It's sort of something that crept up on me. I didn't really understand it, but now I do, and I think it's important.
Like most people of my generation who were educated in the 50s and 60s, I knew nothing about Aboriginal or Indigenous heritage, culture, history. So, you know, and actually I'm quite aghast at how unaware I've been for most of my life. So in many ways this is filling a great hole in my understanding and appreciation for the whole Indigenous heritage that, you know, I'm actually living upon.
I think it's a really fantastic group. I think there should be more groups like it. Particularly as a teacher, I think it's really important. The national curriculum is looking at Indigenous perspectives, which is fantastic, but there is a danger of that becoming all very past tense. And what the Balaangala Garden space does is provide a living, breathing space that's really dynamic, that people can come together and learn from one another. So it kind of breaks down those dichotomies of, you know, traditional ways and modern ways and them and us, and just provides a beautiful, healthy space for people to learn from each other.
Group members have transformed a weed-infested site into a thriving garden space. The area is full of native plants used by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as food, for medicine, craft, tools and implements. The garden space provides the group with a place to mark significant events like Sorry Day and NAIDOC Week, to bring the community together at open days, and workshops like ochre painting, weaving and bush tucker, to host visits by school and community groups. Educational signage about the language has been installed throughout the garden. Plants in the garden are labelled with their use and wherever possible named in the local language of the Turrbal or neighbouring Gubbi Gubbi and Waka Waka peoples. Native plants have traditional and cultural importance to Indigenous people, but all Australians can learn how to benefit from growing them in their own gardens.